Hi folks, Spencer Remple here, the Moose Whisperer, bringing you exciting hunting and outdoor adventure stories from around the world. Today's story is a moose hunting adventure from the coastal mountains of British Columbia. Let's get right into it. It was early October in 2011. At that latitude, the moose are in high rut and have only one thing on their mind. This is my favorite time to hunt moose. I love all types of hunting, from hiking, horseback, to ATVs, to just driving around in your truck. But hunting from a boat in the middle of prime rut is my favorite. The rut is when you can call them in, hear their replies, see their mating practices, find rubs, wallows, and tracks everywhere. There's just so much action, so much happening in the moose world. It's the greatest time to be out in the bush. Hunting by boat is my favorite transportation for so many different reasons. Floating downstream at the very first light of day as you pull the boat up onto a sandbar and sneak into a riverside meadow. Heaven. That is perfect. I love boats so much better than a horse that bites and kicks and tries to run away. Hiking is great too, but most of it is a drag, especially with 125 pounds of meat on your back. No, sir. Give me motorized transportation any day of the week. If it wasn't a boat, I'll take an ATV, the modern day horse. And let me tell you, I'm thankful for them. Don't get me wrong. I love animals and I love horses, but caring for those horses out on the trail is too much of a job all on its own. And honestly, they bite and kick. So here I was, the perfect job, working for a hunting outfitter running 10 miles of river, flanked by willows, dogwood, and open swampy meadows. This year, the outfitter was granted 7 moose tags to sell as complete hunting trips. Some years he'd have more, and some years he'd have less. You see, here in Canada, the Conservation, Fish and Game Department monitors very closely how many tags were supplied in a certain area, and how many moose were harvested. Questionnaires are sent out every year to all hunters. This is just one of the many determining factors that the department then uses to allot how many moose can be taken from said area each year. 7 was a good number for us, and we were happy to have it, as in some years we'd had as little as only 2. The areas are generally small, and we're happy to have this type of active conservation. I will say that sometimes an area can have multiple different habitats. This area consisted of a small portion of mountains and rivers reaching out mostly into rolling hills and plateaus of the Chilcotin area. That's what it's called. Although the moose population seemed low in the rangeland, it was very high in our remote fly-in only mountain valleys. So, unfortunately, the lower moose hunting success of the ranchland would affect how many tags we were issued over in moose heaven. Anyway, conservation is not the easiest thing, and we all work together to make it as best as we can for ourselves and, of course, the coming generations. Honestly, no one is more in favor of conservation than us hunters. And so our adventure began, with a few days prep work before our first client arrived, a husband and wife team all the way from Italy, here to enjoy our beautiful wilderness. Well, he got a moose. That's one moose down, and happy to get it. He got it in a torrential downpour as the river rose and floodwaters approached. Let me tell you, in the coastal mountains of BC at that time of year, or just about any time of year, you're guaranteed to get rained on or snowed on. How much? You can't be sure, but for sure, you're going to get wet and cold. But that's not so bad when you return each night to a hot meal, a shower, a sauna, and a nice cabin to sleep in. And that's luckily what we had. Phew! Thank God for a little civilization in the wilderness. The next week saw 4 clients come in. A husband and wife, their friend, and a nephew, all from the good old US of A. Experienced hunters they were, and an absolute joy to be around. I'll leave a link above if you want to hear more about one of their exciting hunts. Each one of them got a moose as well, and after 1 week we loaded them and their moose up into the plane and flew them home. So then we were done. No, wait a minute. That's 1 moose and 4 moose, that's 5 moose, and you said there was 7 moose tags, Spence. Yeah, that's right. There was. 2 of those tags were part of our payment. Our guide outfitter gave both me and Nathan tags of our own, so after 2 weeks of hunting with our clients and 5 moose taken, we were ready to start our own hunts. We had 2 boats and we decided to split up so that we could cover more territory and increase our odds, as we only had 2 days to fill our tags. Day 1 found me watching a beautiful meadow close to the lake, when in the distance I heard 3 shots. Boom, boom, boom! The shots rang out so close in succession I thought, that couldn't be my partner. He shoots a bolt-action rifle, not a semi-automatic. There can't be anyone else here, I thought. And I hopped in my boat and fired up that goofy Mud Buddy longtail outboard. With the engine screaming and the water flying everywhere from that prop sitting right on the surface, I headed as quickly as I could towards the gunshots. Well, sure enough, it was my friend and co-worker Nathan. He had the good fortune of finding a moose right on the shore of the lake. The moose was standing on high ground with nothing but acres and acres of waist-deep swamp all around him. Well, my friend did not want him to run off of that one piece of high ground and put 3 shots into his chest, faster than you could say 3 shots. And I praised him on how fast he could reload a bolt-action rifle. His reasoning was sound, though, as that bull was easy to skin on dry land, and with the boat right there, there was no difficulty in packing it. Whew, done. Now, antlers are nice, but we had 2 days to get 2 bull moose, and we're meat hunters. Meat eaters all the way. We wanted to fill the freezer. Of course, we would never turn down a big set of antlers, but our main objective was food for the year. This was really nice of our outfitter to provide this as part of our pay, as not buying meat for a year can really save you money. Well, now the pressure's on. It's up to me. But since my friend had filled his tag, we could now hunt together. Well, it didn't take long, as the very next morning, we were in the boat slowly putting along the tail end of the lake, where it pretty much turns back into a river. The water was high, running over the banks in some areas, and filling all the low-lying swampy areas to knee or thigh-deep water. That water, grass, and lumpy ground that you couldn't see underneath made walking really tough and extremely difficult. Neither of us wanted to try it with 125 pounds of moose meat on our back. We were praying for an easy hunt, an easy moose with dry feet. Well, we could hardly believe our eyes as we came around the bend just after the spot where Nathan had gotten his moose the day before. There he was, Mr. Bull Moose, standing perfectly broadside, staring at us across the swamp some 300 yards away. Yikes! Not a shot I like to take with no rest, and certainly a shot I would never take from a moving boat. Even if the boat is stationary, it's far too wobbly, and the slightest movement here is feet of movement out at 300 yards. So, on shore! Put the boat on shore! I yelled at Nathan. Not really sure of what I meant. Nathan gunned the boat towards the shore and then backed off and reversed it before actually getting onto the shore. Well, the moose heard this commotion and was starting to look nervous. No, no, I whispered. No, push us right up onto the shore, I said. And that's exactly what he did. Roar went the engine, pushed us right up on shore, the bow lifting high into the air, the stern sinking down as Nathan killed the motor. I dove forward and now using the steady bow of the boat as my rest. Luckily, I had my 3:9 variable Leopold scope cranked up to 9. And as those crosshairs came down to the moose's chest, I seen him start to swing his head forward and his foot come up as he was about to leave. There was no time to take another breath. No time to think twice, and at that very second, I let fly one single shot. Boom! The moose continued his turn and walk away. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, and down he went like a sack of hammers. Man, was I happy to perform a great shot like that right in front of my friend. Right for the chest, right for the heart. He turned, took about 3-4 steps, and down he went. And we're just waiting right now. 1 shot, 1 kill, virtually instant death at 300 yards away with 1 second to make the shot. Haha! Not too bad. The other advantages were we didn't have to track him, I didn't have to pack the meat out, and of course, the most important one, the moose died the quickest death he could have ever hoped for. Every moose in the wild is destined for a slow and terrible demise. Wounded, starving, teeth falling out, being eaten alive by wolves. I never feel bad about a bullet to the heart. It's such a merciful kill. I had a young family at home, and again this meat would feed us for a full year. We waited a good 10 minutes to ensure that the bull had bled out and wouldn't be tempted or able to jump up when we approached him. The way he went down, I knew he had passed, but we gave it to time anyways. Nathan and I sat on shore, grinning from ear to ear as we ate a couple of Eat More candy bars to give us strength for the field dressing process. Now, like I said, most of the meadows were flooded with knee-deep or more water, and this was the case here as well. This time it worked to our advantage though, as we were able to walk the floating boat 200 yards closer to the moose. We walked the other 100 yards and could see him clearly not moving or breathing. With the tip of the barrel, I touched him in the eye just to make sure. A double check that I always suggest. No blink, no movement. I was happy to know he died very quickly. I love a morning hunt. The sun was out, the day was getting warmer, and we had lots of time to field dress this moose and get the meat out into the hanging tree. Being that the nights were not hard frost yet, we did have to contend with flies. Now, you know that you do not want flies on your meat because, of course, they are there to lay eggs. Flies on your moose equals maggots in your meat. Here's a great little trick that some of you may not know. Bring along a bag of fine grind pepper. Yes, just regular black pepper. Fine grind though, not that coarse thick stuff. When you're skinning and cutting, liberally throw that pepper around. Put it on your meat and on everything that goes into bags. You won't believe it, but the flies actually hate it, and they'll keep them off your meat. Now, as soon as you can, get that meat into your meat bags, which are a cheesecloth type of bag that allow air to get through, but not so much the flies. Now, flies can still do some damage through that cloth or find a way in, so the next step is to get those pieces high up in a tree, where not only the bears can't reach them, but also where there's a good breeze blowing to help keep the flies away. That breeze will also help form a protective skin, kind of a thicker skin barrier on the meat as well, that will help keep the flies off too. So that is what we did, and the meat turned out perfect. I say moose tenderloin, moose backstraps, or even a slow-cooked moose roast is an absolute delicacy. That night, we dined on fresh tenderloin. We sent an SOS text message out to the plane, and the pilot flew in to retrieve us and our moose the very next day. Whew! Field dressing 7 moose, I had had my fill. It was a long, long drive home, and we ended up staying the night, believe it or not, in a town called Sycamoose. Yeah, which is hilarious because that is exactly how I felt. That's my story, but I'd like to tell yours. You can send your stories to me via email to info@themoosewhisperer.com. Send them either written out or just an audio file of you telling the story. Send a few pictures too, and I'll make a great video of your story. Thanks for watching. More stories to come.